Lila thought the man she met in a shadowy, exclusive bar was just a beautiful, dangerous stranger. A thrilling mistake in the dark. She didn't realize he was a mafia boss hunting her, and their one night of fire would seal her fate forever. Lila had spent the past 3 years running, living quietly, trying to erase a past she couldn't outrun. But tonight, on the eve of her 25th birthday, she indulged in recklessness. She found herself in the corner of a dimly lit, exclusive club, watching a man who radiated dark, lethal power. He was immaculate in a black suit, his profile sharp, his eyes like chipped obsidian. They didn't exchange names, only intense, silent communication across the room. He was everything forbidden and dangerous, and Lila decided she wanted to burn. He finally moved, walking directly toward her. His voice, when he finally spoke, was a low, velvet rumble that demanded attention. "Don't tell me your name," he instructed, his hand brushing the small of her back as he guided her toward a private exit. "Just tell me what you want." Lila wanted to forget. They retreated to his hotel suite, a place of stark luxury and overwhelming silence. The passion that followed was not gentle. It was fierce, demanding, and utterly consuming, stripping away years of carefully constructed emotional walls. He was dominant, yet his touch held a hidden vulnerability, whispering promises in a language she didn't understand. In the quiet, exhausted aftermath, Lila felt an undeniable connection, a dangerous, soul-deep recognition she had never experienced. She knew she had to leave before dawn, before the anonymity wore off. She slipped out of the suite, leaving behind only the ghost of her expensive perfume, convinced that the greatest mistake of her life would remain her best-kept secret. Lila ran, not just from the hotel, but from the memory of the intensity that had defined the night. Back in her cramped studio apartment, surrounded by her unfinished paintings, the silence was deafening. She felt hollowed out, carrying the phantom weight of the stranger's arms. She told herself it was just chemistry, a beautiful, necessary surrender to escape her crushing loneliness. But she couldn't shake the possessive command in his voice, or the fierce, protective way he had held her. As a professional artist, Lila worked alone, her current focus being a massive mural commission in the city's financial district. The money was essential for her to finally secure a new identity and run farther. She tried to focus, but every shadow held the silhouette of the man she couldn't name. Hours later, a simple oversight shattered her fragile peace. She received an encrypted email containing a single attachment, a high-resolution photograph of the lobby of the exclusive club she had visited last night. The attached message contained only 3 words, chillingly simple: "I found you." The air immediately turned cold. He didn't need her name. He was a hunter, and the intimacy they shared was not a mistake. It was the trap. Lila realized her anonymous fire was now a devastating, inescapable reality. She was no longer running from her past. She was running from the present, and the most dangerous man she had ever known was closing in. Lila's desperation led her to the city's largest warehouse district, where her mural project was based. She knew she had to disappear, but she needed the final payment. As she frantically packed her supplies, 2 enormous, silent men in dark suits appeared at the warehouse entrance. They weren't police. They moved with a precise, chilling authority that spoke of professional danger. They stepped aside, and the stranger from the club walked in. His entrance immediately stole all the air and light from the immense space. He was no longer the anonymous lover. He was a devastating, undeniable force. "Lila," he stated, his voice now cold, flat and hard as pavement. "You ran from the man you met last night. You shouldn't have. I am Dante Volkov, and you are mine." The name, Dante Volkov, hit her like a physical blow. He wasn't just a powerful man. He was the notorious head of the city's most ruthless criminal organization, the one controlling all major construction deals, including this very warehouse. He was ruthless, untouchable, and now he was standing 10 feet away, claiming her. Her terror was absolute, but she forced defiance. "I don't belong to anyone." Dante smiled, but the expression was devoid of warmth. Last night, you signed a contract you didn't read, my love. And now you will fulfill the terms. He ordered his men to clear the area, leaving Lila trapped and alone. Her one night of recklessness had not just ended her anonymity. It had delivered her straight into the hands of the very man she needed to avoid. Dante dismissed his guards, leaving Lila alone with him in the echoing silence of the warehouse. His eyes, usually intensely passionate, were now cold and analytical, assessing her fear. "Why are you doing this? What do you want?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Dante walked toward her slowly, his presence overwhelming. "I want what I paid for," he stated simply, raising the stakes immediately. "You didn't just stumble into my club, Lila. I was hunting you." He revealed the first major twist. He hadn't been looking for a random fling. He had been actively searching for an artist with her unique style and specific background for weeks. The intensity of their anonymous connection was not luck. It was a devastating, controlled move on his part. Your distinctive art style, your ability to disappear, your knowledge of certain city sectors, they are assets I require. I needed a distraction, a release, but primarily I needed you. The one night was merely a confirmation of your value. His confession that he'd planned their initial meeting made the memory of their passion feel like a profound betrayal. But before she could react, he dropped the second twist. Your father, Lila, left behind a specific financial ledger when he ran 3 years ago. That ledger is currently holding up the largest deal of my career. And you are the only key to finding it. The humiliation of being hunted and now professionally owned for her father's mistakes was crushing. Lila's shock was replaced by cold, hard realization. Her father's past, which she desperately tried to escape, had finally caught up to her, weaponized by the most powerful man in the city. "My father is dead to me," she stated, the lie feeling heavy. "I haven't spoken to him in years." Dante merely smiled, a cynical twist of his lips. "That doesn't matter. The ledger is tied to an account only you can legally access. Find the ledger, or your debt to me will become far more expensive than $10 million. He revealed the painful truth of the past. Her father had betrayed Dante's organization years ago, stealing a crucial ledger that contained evidence of decades of money laundering, threatening to collapse Dante's empire. "I need that ledger back before it's used against me by my rivals. You will live in my home, under my complete surveillance, until you retrieve it." He presented the demand not as a punishment, but as a business necessity. Lila felt trapped, not just by Dante, but by the shame of her father's crimes. She agreed, not for Dante's sake, but to protect herself and her last shred of independence. She realized the only way to escape Dante was to help him, and the only way to survive was to pretend the chemistry they shared was completely meaningless. The emotional tension of being physically claimed by the man who owned her father's secrets became her new, terrifying reality. Lila's new reality was the stark, silent luxury of Dante's fortified penthouse. Her life was ruled by his schedule, his security, and his absolute control. The rules were simple. She was his captive, his asset, and his fiancée in public to ward off rivals. Rule 1. No one outside the immediate circle knows she is a prisoner. Rule 2. She will accompany him everywhere. Rule 3. She will attempt to access the ledger using her father's old contacts. Dante, surprisingly, was meticulous in his respect for her space and her body, adhering to a strict physical distance, unless they were in public. Then, his hand would rest on the small of her back, his gaze intensely possessive. The touch meant to signal ownership to his rivals. One afternoon, while preparing for a highly visible charity event, Lila looked up and caught Dante watching her, his dark eyes filled with a raw, almost painful regret. "I wish this were different," he murmured, his voice startlingly soft. "I wish I hadn't had to use deception to keep you close." The confession of vulnerability was a crack in his armor, and Lila realized the cold control wasn't about malice. It was about his own profound need for security and stability, a need her father's betrayal had destroyed. The facade of the ruthless boss was starting to fade, replaced by a complex, weary man who only knew how to protect himself through absolute control. The forced proximity, far from breeding contempt, slowly intensified their dangerous, forbidden connection. Lila, using her artist's observation, began to see the humane side of the ruthless boss. She watched him interact with his old, quiet staff, treating them with fierce loyalty. She saw him working late, the stress of running an empire etched around his eyes, looking less like a predator and more like a man drowning in responsibility. One evening, Lila found him sitting alone, staring at a framed, faded photo of an older woman. "My grandmother," he confessed quietly without being asked. "The only person who ever believed in me. She taught me everything." He then confessed his ultimate fear: losing his organization would dishonor her memory. Lila, realizing his empire was built on legacy and loyalty, not just greed, reached out and placed a hesitant hand on his shoulder. The warmth of her touch caused him to flinch, but he didn't pull away. He turned, his intense eyes searching hers. "I shouldn't be letting you see this," he admitted, his voice rough. "It compromises my control." "No," Lila countered softly, looking into his eyes. "It makes you human." In that moment of shared, profound vulnerability, the boundaries of their captive relationship dissolved, replaced by a dangerous, fragile intimacy built on mutual, unwanted understanding. The emotional breakthrough shattered the final physical barriers. Weeks of unspoken tension and raw, humane vulnerability culminated one night after they successfully navigated a hostile meeting with a rival family. The relief was overwhelming, merging seamlessly with their fierce, suppressed attraction. They found themselves alone in the vast master suite, the unspoken need between them undeniable. Dante walked toward her, no longer the hunter or the captor, but a man seeking absolute truth. "I need you to look at me, Lila," he commanded, his voice shaking with effort. "And tell me this is wrong." Lila knew the answer was yes, but her heart screamed no. She stepped toward him, pulling his tie loose, her own control dissolving. The kiss was not reckless like their first. It was deep, tender, and intensely committed, a covenant of their shared, painful secrets. They shed the layers of the captive and the captor in a frantic rush, driven by the desperate need to connect. The intimacy was fierce, passionate, and deeply possessive, transforming the contract into a permanent, emotional bond. When they lay together afterward, entangled and exhausted, Dante held her tight, his hand resting fiercely on her hair. "You are mine, Lila," he whispered, the words no longer a threat, but a sacred, protective promise. The love they found was unplanned, but it was absolute, securing their dangerous future together. The intimacy fueled their focus. Lila, using her father's old contacts, finally found the ledger. The location was a safe deposit box owned by Victor Thorne, the very rival who had attempted to steal her family's clinic funds and was now trying to acquire Dante's properties. But the ledger contained the real, explosive twist. It proved that Lila's father hadn't run because he was a criminal. He had gone into hiding because he was trying to expose Victor, who had been systematically framing Dante's organization for years to take control. Victor was the true villain who caused Lila's family debt, Dante's corporate struggle, and Lila's father's disappearance. Lila realized with shattering clarity that she and Dante were not captor and captive. They were victims of the same man. Just as they planned to use the ledger, Victor's men breached the penthouse security, holding Dante and Lila at gunpoint. Victor stood before them, smiling cruelly. "You shouldn't have fallen in love, Dante. It made you sloppy. Now I have the ledger and I have your bride." The danger was absolute, but Dante pulled Lila behind him, his body a solid, protective barrier. "You don't own her," Dante ground out, his voice lethal. "She is my wife, and you've made a fatal mistake." The ensuing confrontation was brief and violent, but Dante's superior training and Lyra's quick thinking with a security alarm gave them the advantage. Victor was subdued and handed over to a waiting specialized unit Dante had secretly put in place. The crisis was over. The ledger was turned over to authorities, leading to Victor's immediate downfall and exposing his crimes. Dante's empire was cleared, his family's honor restored. Lyra's father, finally safe, emerged from hiding and was completely exonerated, able to rebuild his life. Lyra and Dante stood on the penthouse terrace months later, overlooking the city. The contract was long destroyed. Dante placed a beautiful, intricate gold ring on her finger. "I bought you for $10 million, he murmured, his eyes full of love. "But I realized you were priceless." He confessed that he hadn't been hunting for an asset in Chapter 4. He was hunting for her because he'd felt the same undeniable, soul-deep connection during their one night of fire. "You are mine, Lila," he stated, the words now a declaration of commitment, not ownership. They were married quickly and quietly, their love built on chaos, trust, and fierce loyalty. They had found a permanent, unconditional bond, proving that sometimes, fate delivers the ruthless protector you didn't know you needed, starting with one unforgettable night. Which part of the plot, the fact Dante was hunting her, or the revelation that Victor was the true villain, gave you the most suspense? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want more Mafia romance, protective heroes, and dramatic twists, please like this video and subscribe for more videos like this.